This is the map of Russia. With 1/8 of the world's landmass, Russia is the largest country on Earth. Russia has a significant portion of its territory located above the Arctic Circle, thus making it the most populous and northernmost sizable country in the world. It is bordered to the north by the Arctic Ocean, to the east by the Pacific Ocean, and to the south by the Black and Caspian Seas. Russia borders 14 countries: Azerbaijan, Belarus, China, Estonia, Finland, Georgia, Kazakhstan, North Korea, Latvia, Lithuania, Mongolia, Norway, Poland, and Ukraine. In a country as huge and ethnically varied as Russia, scientists have made some scary discoveries, from erupting volcanoes to alien UFOs and other unimaginable findings. Join us as we explore the new terrifying discoveries in Russia that changes everything. Number 15. Bizarre alien corpse. Locals and scientists are baffled by a tiny alien creature that washed ashore on the banks of a river in northwest Russia. At first inspection, it appears to be something that sprang from a Nostromo crew member's stomach cavity in order to terrorize humanity. A woman called Tamara discovered the 4-centimeter oddity in the Leningrad region in the town of Sosnovy Bor while she waded in the shallows of the Kovashi River, according to a local television news report. The creature, which featured what appeared to be an enlarged skull, a shrunken frame, and taloned limbs, was believed by Tamara's pals to be a mutant chicken embryo. But Tamara wasn't certain the creature she discovered, which she named Kesha, was of mundane origin. Alien conspiracy enthusiasts dusted off their tinfoil hats in response to Kesha. It is sufficiently ambiguous to conjure up ideas of top-secret underground bunker laboratories, reverse alien probes, and mitochondrial sequencing that Kesha was to be transported to Moscow for additional analysis. The crucial term here is mutant, and for Sosnovy Bor residents, the mutant chicken embryo notion makes more sense financially. Kesha is more like Blinky the fish than a flesh-eating extraterrestrial if it is a radioactive mutant that was born from a leak at the local nuclear power plant. Number 14. The revived 24,000-year-old Deloid rotifer microworms. Russian scientists have revived and cloned 24,000-year-old zombies, which is less terrifying than it sounds, but no less interesting news. This isn't The Walking Dead, so don't be alarmed. The critters in question are known as Deloid rotifers, or microscopic wheel animals, so called because of their round mouths that are encircled by little hairs. Deloid rotifers, like the more charismatic tardigrade, are extremophiles, organisms that can endure extraordinary environments like the vacuum of space or the blazing heat of submarine vents. To conduct this experiment, the researchers traveled to Siberia and cut a piece of permafrost, which is a word for land that is always frozen. Since the end of the Pleistocene epoch 2.6 million to 11,700 years ago, at least this particular region has been frozen. After being carefully thawed by the scientists, the frozen rotifers started to live their normal lives once more, including their distinctive asexual reproduction. Cryptobiosis, a type of suspended animation, is the key to the rotifer's success. Cryptobiosis is crucial because organisms with this ability enter a unique sleep state that is necessary for later revival. Compare and contrast this to animals that prepare for hibernation with those who simply fell asleep. The preparation is essential for a successful wake-up. The rotifers reproduce by making precise clones of themselves asexually. Thus, the scientists rapidly lost track of which microscopic organisms were old and which were the new offspring after allowing the Earth to thaw with a specific solution to assist waking the rotifers. Now on the Xerox machine, we have some fresh, minuscule worms making copies of themselves. Isn't that awesome? 13. The eerie melted bricks of Fort Zverev. Konstantin Zverev, a Russian engineer, constructed Fort Zverev in the 1870s. It is now in total disrepair. Nevertheless, it still draws visitors now just as it did before. The fort is a deserted building that is perfectly suited to the moniker Hell on Earth, and it is situated on an artificial island in the Baltic Sea just north of Kronstadt. The water tubes, machine gun mounts, and rusted bunker hatches that are dispersed on the surface offer hardly any indication of what is inside. In the past, while the fort was still in use, the Russians kept fuel that was somewhat like napalm in the basement. The unexpected fire that erupted in the fort in 1970 unfortunately spread to the basement as well, starting an uncontrollable inferno. The incident wasn't simply horrific. The burning fuel reached temperatures over 2,000 degrees Celsius. It got so hot that the brick walls and ceiling literally melted and ran down like icicles. The basement was totally gone when the fire finally died out and the fort began to cool. The once smooth walls of the chamber had become rough, and the roof was now covered in numerous red brick stalactites. In all honesty, the fort looks pretty gloomy in the images. Perhaps the ideal place for aspirations and dreams to die is among the silent ruins. Number 12. Russia's Kola Super Deep Borehole. The pit is known as the Well to Hell by locals because they claim that it's so deep that you can hear the screams of those being tortured in hell. It would take about 3.5 to 4 minutes to reach the bottom if you dropped into the hole. In the 1970s, a project to dig into the Earth's surface got underway close to Murmansk. The Soviets built Russia's Kola Super Deep Borehole in the interest of science so they might explore previously unexplored depths and discover more about what lies beneath our feet. They were able to drill more than 7.5 kilometers into the Earth over the course of 2 decades. The temperature, 180 degrees Celsius, was far higher than the scientists had anticipated, and they were forced to halt drilling because of it in 1992. If experts wanted to continue digging without obliterating all of their equipment, they still need to find a solution to the temperature problem. But despite all the drilling, some scientific advancements were accomplished. Although it was previously believed that there could be no water 12 kilometers under the Earth's crust, the researchers discovered that there is. In addition, they gained access to rocks that were 2.7 billion years old and discovered 20 new forms of long-dead single-celled organisms. It is improbable that anyone would ever fall into the 23-centimeter diameter Kola Super Deep Borehole because of its metal lids welded-on construction. Number 11. Footballs of the Gods. You might as well visit this odd island in the Franz Josef archipelago if you ever have the chance to travel to the Arctic. Russia's Champ Island is one of the most remote places on Earth, covering 374 square kilometers, 144 square miles. However, if it weren't for the distinctive concretions, not many would have thought this location was special. Stone balls ranging in size from a few millimeters to several meters are scattered around the desolate terrain of this remote island. These unusual formations were given the names Monster Marbles and Footballs of the Gods by some of the site's visitors. Although the island has never been inhabited before, based on how flawless they appear, one would believe that humans once lived here and constructed these features. The stones must have formed organically according to scientists, but it's unclear how. Every geologist who has visited the island seems to have their own theory for why this peculiar phenomenon occurs. Some think that the origin of the little rounder spheres, but not the enormous balls discovered on Champ Island, may have been stones that were carried away by coastal seas. Another widely accepted theory is that the organic core of stone spheres is a result of their formation underwater. The question of how it got there is yet to be answered to date. Number 10. Alyoshenka the Kishtim Dwarf, the alien from outer space, or boy mutant. A strange scene occurred in July 1996 in the small Ural area city of Kishtim, which is 1,764 kilometers east of Moscow. Tamara Prosverina, a retired woman, was strolling down the street while conversing with something that was wrapped in a blanket. The people remembered that she said it was her baby, Alyoshenka, Alexei for short. Prosverina actually had a son named Alexei, but he was an adult and serving time for stealing in 1996. So they assumed she had become insane. Prosverina did in fact have mental health concerns. A few months later, she was referred to a clinic for schizophrenia treatment, but the object wrapped in a blanket wasn't a toy. It was a living creature that she had discovered in the woods close to a well. Is it actually an alien? Alyoshenka was characterized as a 20 to 25 centimeter tall humanoid with a tan body, no hair, large projecting eyes, and moving, squeaky lips by those who saw it. His onion-shaped body was stated to not look at all human. Locals' reports, however, vary. For instance, some people said the dwarf had blue eyes and was hairy. Some claim the humanoid had no hair. However, they all agreed that Alyoshenka looked like a real alien, but that was it. Both the environment and the area was severely polluted, so another widely accepted hypothesis was that Alyoshenka was a radiation-damaged human mutant. The inevitable occurred one day after Prosverina's neighbors called the hospital. Medical personnel picked her up. The Kishtim dwarf passed away without anybody to feed him, and his body was sent to ufologists who seized it and never returned. After that, Alyoshenko's tracks vanished altogether, leading to a more than 20-year search by journalists. Number 9. The Bloody Candy. Russian youngsters have fond memories of eating hematogen bars going back several generations. These treats were marketed as being wholesome and healthful and capable of assisting with anemia, a disorder that affects roughly 25% of people, particularly young children. The bar, which was made from condensed milk, syrup, and beet sugar, tasted similar to a Tootsie Roll. Clearly, this was advantageous for Russian children who got to eat these treats in the interest of good health. However, the tasty bars held a sinister secret that was connected to their somewhat metallic flavor: black food albumin. That's just another word for blood. These over-the-counter pills included how much blood exactly? Well, at least 5% cow blood is used. We understand if the thought of this makes your skin crawl, but for the Russian people, hematogen bars were anything but a horror. Even after the Soviet Union fell apart, the food remained widely available in pharmacies across the USSR. Blood is extremely nutrient-dense and could make the difference between life and death for subsistence farmers and people who live off of one butchered cow after another. After all, dietary preferences like vegetarianism and veganism are intimately related to one's financial situation and available funds. 8. Skeleton with alien skull. The discovery of a prehistoric skeleton with an extended cranium that resembles an alien sent UFO watchers into a frenzy. The discovery of the humanoid skeleton at what is referred to as Russia's Stonehenge is being hailed as conclusive evidence that extraterrestrials visited Earth long ago. In contrast to extraterrestrial hunters, archaeologists maintain that the bones belong to a female from a culture that used to bind the skull to cause it to grow out of shape. However, proponents of extraterrestrial life contend that if this were the case, it was just a ploy to simulate the long-skulled alien visitors. According to Makarova, archaeologists are still trying to come up with explanations as to why the tribe practiced skull lengthening but have not yet succeeded. The body that was found at Archive, according to the scientists who revealed the images, did not date back as far as the antiquity of the site, which dates back to 4000 BC. They estimate that the bones are actually less than 2,000 years old and are from the period between 200 and 300 AD. Number 7. Kamchatka, Beauty and the Beasts. In Kamchatka, Russia, there is a hotspot for volcanic activity. The Kuril-Kamchatka Trench is a major cause of earthquakes and tsunamis. It is one of the most volcanically active regions in the world behind Iceland and Hawaii due to the high density of volcanoes, many of which are still active. The 30 eruptions over the past 10,000 years have released 1 cubic kilometer of magma, and the active volcanoes together make up a volcanic belt that is 700 kilometers long. The tribes known as the Koryaks, Itelmens, Chukchi, and Tunguses are the original inhabitants of this area. As in other volcanic regions around the world, their mythology around the destructive earth forces has been passed down from generation to generation. The Koryak people believe that Kamchatka was formed from a feather that a large raven dropped while soaring over the landscape. All the men in the land were said to have fallen profoundly in love with the first woman the Creator created. They turned into mountains after they died, and the mountains possessed hearts that were still burning and brimming with ferocious love for the woman. Number 6. 4-meter UFO disk. A group that's allegedly discovered UFO debris believes that aliens may have made contact with Earth 1 million years ago. The remains discovered came in the form of a 4-meter stone disk. According to Scott Waring of UFO Sightings Daily, "It looks to me like the stone disks I've seen in Mars NASA images, which leads me to assume that this UFO is a military drone, but it was presumably destroyed during the Mars strike and got off track, crashing on Earth." The disk, one of the dozens that were supposedly discovered nearby, is significant because it might contain the element tungsten. The claim that the stone disk may contain tungsten metal is significant because it supports the idea that it was made using technology from an extraterrestrial spacecraft. Tungsten, commonly referred to as wolfram, has unique uses in military technology. The metal is utilized in projectiles meant to pierce armor because of its extreme hardness and great density. It is utilized to construct parts exposed to tremendous heat because it also has the rare distinction of having the highest melting point of all elements. According to Scott Waring of UFO Sightings Daily, the UFO crash sites also yielded tungsten. Additionally, ufologists asserted that the discovery might be about 1 million years old. However, these claims should be taken with a huge pinch of salt, actually a bucket load. Number 5. Mosquito tornado. The warmer weather is something that many of us look forward to, but the mosquitoes that come with it are something else. You may reside in a region of the world where mosquitoes are a significant issue, but after viewing a video from Russia, you are likely to feel better about your position. Few have ever witnessed what a Russian driver was able to photograph. It was a massive mosquito swarm that turned the sky dark and produced what can only be called a mosquito tornado. This man in Russia was able to demonstrate it to the rest of the globe, despite the fact that it might be a very uncommon occurrence. Fortunately for him, he was at the time securely seated inside of his car. This video was captured in the village of Ust-Kamchatsk in eastern Russia on July 17th of last year. The individual who recorded the video claimed to have moved through the mosquito swarm for hundreds of meters. The male mosquitoes appeared to have been searching for a mate, but there were so many of them that it boggles the mind. Interestingly, since only female mosquitoes will bite a human, the witnesses were not at risk of receiving thousands of bites. All the males were after was a female mosquito, and it seems as if they were more outnumbered than what you might find on an online dating website. 4. The Black Volga. A popular urban legend that was most prevalent in Poland, Hungary, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Greece, and Mongolia, mostly in the 1960s and 70s, is known as the Black Volga. A black GAZ-21 or GAZ-24 is mentioned in the folklore as being used to kidnap and kill individuals. Various accounts claim that Satan himself, the Russian mafia, or the communist secret police were responsible. This impression was also influenced by the NKVD body's active usage of the GAZ-M1 MK passenger car produced by the Gorky automobile plant during the period of mass repression. The M1 was only offered with black paint for practically the entire period it was in production, which highlighted the car's menacing appearance. According to legend, the criminals kidnapped the victims before killing them so they might use their blood to treat wealthy Westerners or Arabs with leukemia. Other variations combine this story with another infamous rumor about the KGB stealing kidneys to utilize organ theft as the motivation. Sometimes horns were used to represent the Black Volga in place of wing mirrors. Additionally, it can have white windows or curtains, a license plate with number 666 or both. In this version, the driver, allegedly the devil, would ask passerbys for the time and kill them when they approached the car to answer. However, there was an effective defense method. Whenever the driver of the Black Volga asked, "What time is it?" the person would have to answer, "It is God's time." Then the car would quickly vanish. Of course, as with all conspiracy theories, this has never been proven, and as such, most agree the Black Volga is a purely fictional entity. Number 3. Russia's mysterious City of the Dead. A medieval necropolis appropriately known as the City of the Dead is located just outside the isolated Russian hamlet of Dargavs. Some locals believe that anyone who enters this ancient burial ground will not survive. It contains the remains of more than 10,000 people, many of whom lie eternally with their clothes and possessions. Even the building date of this graveyard just across the border from Georgia is shrouded in obscurity. This rural area of farmland in southern Russia has been utilized as a burial cemetery since the 16th century, yet its origins is still unknown. One idea holds that residents in the 17-kilometer valley of the Caucasus Highlands started to build similarly designed above-ground crypts to save room when land was limited during the 13th century Mongol-Tatar invasion. According to a different idea, the Sarmatians, who settled in southern Russia and followed the Indo-Iranian tradition of burying their dead above ground to show respect for the earth, founded the City of the Dead. There are currently 99 remarkably well-preserved medieval curved roof crypts on the property. Some of the bodies there are so beautifully preserved that their bones still have flesh attached to them. Number 2. 26-foot-long dinosaur with blade-like teeth discovered. Researchers have contributed to the discovery of a new prehistoric predator that outgrew the notorious Tyrannosaurus rex T-Rex in terms of size. The dinosaur, known as Ula-Begosaurus, was identified from a fossilized jawbone and was 5 times the size of the T-Rex ancestor that existed at the time. A Russian paleontologist discovered the fossilized jawbone that led to the discovery in the 1980s in what was then the Soviet Central Asian Republic of Uzbekistan. The creature coexisted with one of the T-Rex's lesser evolutionary forebears 80 to 90 million years ago, a considerable amount of time before the dinosaur. It would have been the top predator at that time in Earth's prehistory because it was between 24.5 and 26 feet long and weighed about 2,000 pounds. Zelensky claims that Ulabegosaurus had additional advantages that would have elevated it above the T-Rex's ancestor in the prehistoric food chain in addition to its sheer size. The petrified teeth of the apex predator demonstrate that the Ulabegosaurus had slicing blade-like teeth. The teeth of an extinct species can reveal a lot to paleontologists about how it once lived. Number 1. The Idol of Shigir. 9-foot-tall totem pole, the oldest known wooden sculpture in the world, towers over a quiet room in a small Russian museum in the Ural Mountains, not far from the Siberian border. The Shigir idol, as it is known, is a landscape of uncomfortable spirits that mystifies the modern observer. It is just as enigmatic as the enormous stone statues of Easter Island. The one-of-a-kind piece, a 9-foot-tall totem pole made of 10 pieces of wood that have been carved with expressive features, eyes and limbs, and painted with geometric patterns, is the oldest surviving example of wooden ritual art that is known to exist. Over a century after its discovery, archaeologists are still learning new things about this incredible relic. The sculpture may be 900 years older than previously believed, according to a recent study by prehistoric studies professor Thomas Terberger of Göttingen University in Germany and his colleagues. Terberger's team currently believes that the artifact was probably made around 12,500 years ago at the conclusion of the last ice age based on careful study. The artwork was carved by prehistoric artisans from a single larch tree with 159 growth rings. The recent discoveries suggest that this priceless artwork is more than 7,000 years older than Stonehenge, which was built roughly 5,000 years ago, according to Sarah Cascone of ArtNet News. The Egyptian pyramids, which date to about 4,500 years ago, are only half as old as it. Let us know what you think of these discoveries in the comments section below.